We got Chad Myers here from JM4 Tactical, and we're excited to be talking with Chad. I'd like to explore the background of your company, how you got started. I've heard the story somewhat, but I think the viewers out there that might find it kind of fascinating. So if you would maybe start kind of in the beginning and lead us down the path.
Well, a couple years ago, exactly about 2.5 years ago, me and my wife, I was a former Marine, so we have problems carrying because we have 4 boys that are in sports, always on the go. We run into grocery stores, so we don't have time to put on belts and all this other stuff. So what I did was I started working on a magnetic holster that me and her could just put on and go. And whenever I started putting magnets in holsters, I realized we have a problem. There's magnetic retention. So I had to start figuring out how to pull the magnetic retention off, but yet it hold the gun in.
Yeah.
So that's the reason that the holsters are built the way they are with the patches and everything on them. So when we figured that out, we figured we would go ahead and move into and start trying to sell a few at some gun shows. So we put a patent on them and everything. We took our house money that we were planning on buying a house and kind of invested in some patents. And it kind of took off. I mean, it went crazy. A couple of weeks ago, Forbes actually interviewed us. They called us, and we actually are fixing to buy our first house.
Finally, the ROI is there.
Awesome,
Yeah.
and congrats to you.
It's been very exciting. We've created a lot of jobs here in the United States. A lot of the companies we deal with are only here in the United States, like Harmon Oak Leather. We only deal with Harmon Oak Leather, but we also deal with Kentucky Leather, also a company out of Kentucky. But our main flagship product is made out of Harmon Oak Leather.
Yeah.
And it's a company that's been around, I think, since 1803. They provided leather for 2 world wars for our troops, the cavalry. I mean, they've been around for a long time.
Yeah.
And they've actually been able to create jobs because of the amount of leather we buy from them.
Yeah.
And then same thing with Boltron. It's a Michigan company.
Yep.
We got in a deal with Boltron, and it's going to start buying Boltron from them. But we've created our own jobs. I think there's 26 jobs total right now.
Wow.
Yeah.
That we've created.
Those
That's
people
awesome.
who are getting fed.
Yes.
In a short amount of time, I might add,
Relatively,
too.
yeah. So, Chad, talk a little bit about why the magnet. I mean, I heard you say you don't always have a chance to put on the belt, but for those who aren't familiar with the product at all, what's the big deal?
It goes well with Jim Cullivan. I'm not saying, my mother does a lot of running. She's in her, that's the reason we created the small holster, because she carries a bodyguard. She does a lot of running. I'm not saying you can go run in gym shorts with a fully loaded Glock 19 or 1911. You got to use some common sense on that part. But she runs with a small bodyguard. But that gives her an option to be able to run, vice versa some of the other things that she has tried. She can put it on her waistline. She carries it up front. She can get to it. It doesn't pull down her pants because it's a smaller gun. But, yeah, she does run with it. The medium holster was originally designed for my wife's LC9. And the large was designed for my Shield. So it's kind of like we were designing these holsters for our family members. That's the reason we started coming out with each size.
Yeah, sure. Over time, that's how it evolves.
Yeah.
And there's also a certain convenience factor, I think, just as far as how fast it is to put on and take off with the magnet. I mean, it's versus a clip trying to hook it around something. It's just like slide, lock.
You don't ever have to take your gun. Like when you go in and a lot of people, we tell people, well, like if you go into a post office, things like that, we get, yes, you're not supposed to take a gun on post office property, but each post office is built different. There's streets out in front of that post office that you actually pay for a meter to go in, but it's so easy to just take that holster off without taking your gun out of the holster, exposing your trigger, and just put it in your console, lock it up, run into the post office, come back out, put it back on.
Yeah.
We and vice versa. Oh, I've got to go to the post office today. I've got to leave my gun at home. I've got to take it off, put it underneath the seat, stuff like that. You don't have to rehold. You just take the whole holster off.
Yep.
When you're in the bathroom, that's the biggest. Our customers love that. They just stick it to the stall. We tell people if you're going to do that, do not leave it in the bathroom.
Yeah, we've seen those stories.
Yeah,
for sure.
If you're going to pull up your pants, put your holster back on.
That's right. Well, I love that. I love that
cool.
innovation. Yeah. So now you guys have had this huge growth. I love the entrepreneur story, so I'm glad Riley you asked that story because in addition to, hey, we got a great product, there's also something about supporting Americans, creating jobs, taking care of families. Obviously, it's been a benefit to you and your family. But you guys keep innovating, which is what I think is interesting. Because I see a lot of companies that they realize they got something great, they have it take off, and then they're just done. They become stagnant. And for you guys, you're still looking forward. You're looking to the next thing, and now we see some new innovation from you guys.
Yes, and that is the case. This has been a year project on this new Relic holster, and the reason we name it Relic is because we took a 15th century method and we introduced it to the 20th century. And what I'm talking about is 15th century method is how we actually do the leather. Okay, they used to take leather and make it out of armor. So we took that method, did some tweaking, and was able to combine everything together. And of course, we do have patent, pendings filed on the holster in the process.
Sure. So, I can't ask you how you make this.
Not right now.
But it's fascinating. So, is there? I guess you can refuse to answer. Is there not something lining this?
It's leather.
Okay.
The answer is it's leather,
That's
Riley.
crazy, right?
Stop asking the question. So for those of you who can't see this really well on the camera, this Relic basically, from a distance, you think this is Kydex. Right? You have to be touching this to realize this is leather.
Well, I don't know. When you look at this one he's got on his waist, I look at that and I go, that's a leather holster.
Well, this outer
because
shell.
of the stitching.
Yeah.
This is all Boltron. Okay.
On the outer shell.
This inner shell is all leather. Okay. And we've combined them together, and you see that every crease, every groove, everything in there is you would a polymer holster.
Yep.
The reason we went with Boltron is because Boltron is a very high grade PVC mix. It lasts in sub-degree temperatures without cracking, like your normal Kydex. It takes extreme heat to form this, so it's not going to just deform in your car. That's the reason we went with it. That's the two reasons, because if we wanted something, because if people are going to spend the money, they're going to want a quality product, and we went with this. Same thing with the Harmon Oak Leather.
Yep.
Now, the leather, see, this is a beautiful thing, right? Because there are many gun carriers out there that they want the security, maybe even the retention, the feel of a Kydex holster, but they don't like the fact that, Kydex can be hard on a gun.
Yes.
Depending on the quality of the finish of the gun in particular, you get any amount of little dust and grime and sand and stuff on the surface of that Kydex, and every time you put the gun into the holster, pull it out of the holster, you're scratching the gun potentially.
Yeah.
Over time, it shows a little bit more wear. Leather was for a long time, a very popular holster choice because it was a little bit easier on the gun. Actually, of course, it was a natural progression of things. Leather.
Sure.
Everything was made out of leather back in the day, but for a long time, you still today have. People love this because number one, this one is flexible. This is not, but it looks good. It looks quality. It's nice and kind to the gun. And you've kind of taken something that, has some of the benefits of a Kydex, but with a look, which I think is more attractive, and with a little bit easier on the gun sort of finish.
Yes.
On the inside.
And it's frankly more durable. It's stronger. You're talking about temperature variations and all those kinds of things.
Totally.
It's higher quality than just a Kydex.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that.
I love this mini paddle. This is cool. It's not superly big. It's convenient. Nice little hook shape there on the bottom there, keeping it hooked on to the waistline, onto the belt. That's a great looking little design there.
See, we went with that paddle. I was totally against us coming out with a paddle holster because I've seen a lot of these videos with people ripping paddles out.
Totally.
And so we started doing some research, and then the guys, they come at me and said, "Okay, what about this paddle right here?" And they built the holster, which is great. And we tried it. I loved it because the way it curves in and it hugs to your body. It hugs it. But then the hooks, that thing will hook onto your clothing trying to be pulled out.
Yeah.
The only disadvantage I have with that one, and it's because I have to take my gun out to pull the holster off because it's so tight. But I would rather do that than make it accessible for somebody to just walk up and rip it out from behind.
Retention's kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
That's
absolutely.
Cool.
So tell us a little bit, Chad, for those who may not be familiar with the brand. Where do they find you? Do you have any? What can they? How do they shop? How do they find this? What do they do?
They can find us on our website at JM4Tactical.com. They can also look us up on Facebook at JM4 Tactical, Pinterest. We're on Instagram what is the other ones? Twitter.
Twitter. So all of them.
We're
Just to
on
find
all of them, yeah.
Whatever you like, they're there.
Just Google JM4 Tactical.
Yeah. And you guys have a really easy website to navigate. It's really easy to find products you're looking for. It's really nice in that regard. And you guys are based in Texas. We're in Texas?
Abilene, Texas.
Abilene, that's right. Abilene, Texas. So you know that they are employing American people there. Those Texans are crazy about that stuff.
Yeah.
So,
although I'm a little bit surprised to not see like the Texas state flag.
I'm grateful, man. Like this,
because isn't that the thing? You make something in Texas, you gotta put the Texas flag on it.
made in Texas.
Our packaging actually has "Made in Texas" on it.
Okay, so there you go, Riley. You feel better? You feel
Texans
better?
are always proud of that fact, and good on them. They have a wonderful history.
A little pride is good.
Yeah, absolutely.
A little pride is good. Well, Chad, thank you so much. Anything else you want to say to the viewers?
No, I want to tell both of y'all thank y'all for having me on, and we really look forward, to working with y'all in the future. It's been a great time. All right, guys.
Yeah, and one last thought. We just on our website, I think 2 days ago, published a review of this new holster. So if you guys want to see what we think about it, go to concealedcarry.com. We have a nice review of this holster, and you can kind of get some thoughts there.
Yep. Great. Thank you, Chad.